Research has found that pregnancy physically changes a woman's brain, and those changes can last for years after birth. What most people call pregnancy brain turns out to be one of the most significant neurological transformations in adult human life. Forgetting where you put your keys, walking into a room and having no idea why, losing words mid-sentence. Many pregnant women and new mothers describe these experiences, often with a mix of humor and frustration. And for a long time, it was casually dismissed. Baby brain, a joke, a side effect. But neuroscientists have been studying what pregnancy actually does to the brain, and the findings are remarkable. Today, we're looking at the science of cognitive changes during pregnancy, what's happening in the brain, why it's happening, and what it might mean. The brain changes are real and measurable. In 2017, a landmark study published in the journal Nature Neuroscience documented something extraordinary. Pregnancy causes measurable, lasting changes to the structure of the human brain. Researchers compared brain scans of women before and after their first pregnancies and found a consistent pattern. Gray matter volume decreased in specific regions of the brain. Now, before that sounds alarming, loss of gray matter isn't necessarily a sign of damage. It often reflects a process called synaptic pruning, the brain becoming more efficient by strengthening important connections and trimming unnecessary ones. The brain regions most affected were those involved in social cognition, the ability to understand other people's emotions, intentions, and mental states. These same changes were not found in first-time fathers or in women who had not been pregnant. And remarkably, the brain changes persisted for at least 2 years after birth, the full follow-up period of the study. What does less gray matter actually mean? The counterintuitive finding from this research was that the regions showing reduced gray matter were the very regions that became more active when mothers looked at photos of their own babies. The researchers proposed that this pattern reflects specialization, the brain tuning itself to become more attuned to the social and emotional needs of an infant. In other words, the pregnancy brain changes may be about becoming better at something specific, reading and responding to a baby. This is not a decline in intelligence or cognitive ability overall. It's a restructuring of priorities, the brain reallocating resources towards skills that are critical for new parenthood. Think of it as the brain being renovated, not diminished. So where do the classic pregnancy brain symptoms come from? The forgetfulness, the word-finding difficulties, the sense of mental fog. Research in this area shows a mixed picture. Some studies have found measurable decreases in specific cognitive tasks during pregnancy and early postpartum, particularly tasks involving attention, memory encoding, and verbal recall. Other studies have found that the differences, while real, are subtle, and that many women perceive themselves as more forgetful than they actually test as being. Several factors are likely contributing. The hormonal environment of pregnancy is extraordinarily complex, with massive fluctuations in estrogen, progesterone, and other hormones that influence brain chemistry. Sleep disruption, which becomes common in pregnancy, is also a powerful disruptor of memory consolidation and cognitive performance. Chronic stress, physical discomfort, and the sheer cognitive load of preparing for a major life transition all contribute as well. The honest scientific answer is, it's likely a combination of all of these, in proportions that vary by individual. What researchers are still learning. The field of maternal neuroscience is relatively young, and there is much that remains unknown. Researchers are actively studying how the brain changes differ across pregnancies, whether certain experiences, like breastfeeding, extend or modify the changes, and how individual differences in stress, support, and health affect maternal brain development. There's also growing interest in how these changes relate to postpartum mental health, including postpartum depression and anxiety. What's increasingly clear is that pregnancy is not a passive experience for the brain. It is an active developmental event, as significant in some ways as adolescence, during which the brain is being reshaped for a fundamentally new role. The next time you or someone you love forgets something during pregnancy and laughs it off as baby brain, know that there's real science behind it. The brain is not malfunctioning, it is transforming. It is pruning and restructuring and specializing, quietly preparing itself to do something it has never done before. To know a baby, to read a baby, to respond to a baby. And that, it turns out, requires the brain to become a different kind of extraordinary. Have you experienced pregnancy brain? Share this with a mom who needs to know her brain is doing something amazing. Follow for more neuroscience of motherhood.